All right, we are good. Welcome to another episode of the Maryland Made Podcast. The Maryland Made Podcast provides timely, relevant, and practical information to empower student athletes to become leaders, develop professional possibilities, and be conscientious advocates in both their local and global communities. I am Walt and Sydnee, the Big Ten Fellow in the Maryland Made unit here at Maryland. And joining me today is my teammate, Sydnee Strong, our community engagement intern, and a special guest, Vad Lee, an author, professional athlete, life coach, motivational speaker, and mentor, and much more. I'm excited to dive into this conversation with Vad as he shares his story and discuss the importance of identity development for student athletes, and also discusses the importance of community service and engagement as our athletic department and our student athlete advisory committee has partnered with Vad for a book drive that we'll talk all about today. So I'm excited again to have Vad and Sydnee on here. Before we let Vad introduce himself, Sydnee, can you tell the people a little bit about the book drive? And again, we'll get more into this later on in the conversation, but break down the logistics of the book drive for everyone.
Of course I can. So we have this book drive where we say support a local kid, purchase a book. From now until February 25th, the Maryland Student Athlete Advisory Committee is hosting a book drive to collect copies of That's My Friend, a book that promotes diversity, inclusion, and literacy, and is written by DMV native and local author Vad Lee. The books will be donated to Cool Springs Elementary School in Adelphi, Maryland. And the goal of the book drive is to ensure that every pre-K, kindergarten, and first grade student receives a book and they learn how much representation matters. The books will be delivered for Reading Across America Day on March 2nd, and the student athletes have the opportunity to read the books as well to the children. And so you can find more information on umterps.com/book drive as well. So please donate a book to support a local kid.
All right, and without further ado, Vad, the author of That's My Friend, and again, much more than that, but Vad, how are you doing today? Happy Friday, by the way, but how are things going over there for you?
Happy Friday. Things are going well. Just got done with the great workout this morning and some good lunch. And now I'm on here with you guys and being able to talk about student athletes and building athletes up and building up our community. So thank you guys for having me.
No doubt, man, no doubt. So excited again to jump into this conversation. And me and you kind of crossed paths at JMU a few years back, but it's, crazy how the world works, but crossing paths again here in Maryland, in College Park. But this book drive that we kind of, talked about, we kind of connected last semester. So it's great to kind of see that come to life. And again, we'll get into all of that, but the way we, structure our podcast is the before, the between, and beyond. So before we get into all of that, tell us, tell our listeners out there who you are and just share your story.
Yeah, my name is Vad Lee. I am a husband, father. I've done many things in my life. I'm a former two-time All-American athlete, college athlete at Georgia Tech and James Madison University, where I had the opportunity to go against the Terps 3 times in my college career. And so that was always fun, really cool to be able to team up with the Terps, with the book drive, and do the different things that we're doing in the community. But I like to think of myself as a leader, a person who loves to lead leaders, a person who loves, everybody has the ability to lead, right? Not everybody choose to lead, but everybody has that ability to lead. So I love leading leaders and building up the community, whatever community I'm in. So that's a little bit about me. I wrote 2 books so far: Purpose Over Position, and That's My Friend children's book, which we'll talk about later. And I've been around a plethora of community engagements and things of that nature that truly serves my heart well, to be able to do things in the community and use the athletic platform that God has given me and use it for great purpose in life.
Absolutely, man. And hearing that, of course, speaks to a lot of the work that you're doing right now. But take us back, I guess, in terms of your experience as a former college athlete, and like kind of how has that shaped your identity?
Yeah, going off to college and getting a scholarship from high school to college, going to Georgia Tech, and living the lifestyle in Atlanta, being the quarterback, right? All those things were extremely fun, honorable, valued, and I've certainly had my share of success in playing college sports. So yeah, as a college athlete, I've had my share of success, and I won't call them failures, but I'll call them lessons, right? I went through a transfer in college. I also got injured my senior year that ended my senior season at James Madison University. And that has kind of shaped my identity for sure in life, because I now understand the importance of mental health. I now understand the importance of the emotional trauma that's associated with sports, right? A lot of people see the highs, and they celebrate when we shoot the game winning basket, or throw the game winning touchdown, or kick the game winning field goal, right? But those moments when you miss in those last second that last second shot, or those moments when you get injured, or those moments when things aren't going well at home, or something is affecting your performance academically and athletically. I value those experiences now because of my experience when I was playing, and I was able to see how I responded from those things. And it's certainly a mission field that absolutely needs to get tapped into. And I think we're starting to build more support around those things to help student athletes overcome.
Absolutely. And I definitely see, kind of that, I guess, transition for, prioritizing so many other things, and, tapping into like the holistic experience of the student athletes, especially like in the work that we do, me and Sydney, in terms of Maryland Made, student athlete development, like, right, having units across the nation that's geared towards that holistic student athlete experience, right? Like, I graduated, I guess, 2018, so not that long ago, but still long ago when I think about it. But like, I never even heard of student athlete development before then, right? Like, I didn't even know, that IUP where I played, I didn't even know if they had any mental health services, geared towards, student athletes, and just like having those real conversations, authentic conversations. So definitely important there. And, purpose over position, we'll get into that, but what was that kind of defining moment in your career? Was it the injury your senior year, or like what were those defining moments that kind of, I guess, change your mindset?
Yeah, I have many defining moments, but I will say the injury stands above them all, simply because I valued this game, and I love this game, and I've been attached to this game since I was 4 years old. And when you are not able to do the thing that you love, it absolutely hurts you. I associate it as almost losing my best friend, right? I grew up with this game as my best friend. And when I got hurt, we were undefeated. College game day was at that game at James Madison, and I was the national player of the year and conference player of the year. I just broke a record that's never been done before: 275 yards passing and 275 yards rushing in one game. That has never happened before, and I didn't necessarily set out on a goal sheet and say, "Hey, I want to set records. I want to do these things." I just wanted to compete, have fun, and play at a high level. And when that is taken away from you, you have to redefine success. You have to redefine who you are. You have to redefine your identity. And so that has shaped me. And but I will say, I wouldn't change my story. I wouldn't change the injury, because it has given me great purpose in my pain. In the midst of my pain, it has birthed ministry, it has birthed influence, it has birthed opportunity to be able to speak into these conversations that we're having right now. Without that experience, I might have just been an athlete, like, hey, injuries happen in sports, so what? Or I might have been like, hey, mental health happens, so what? Get over it. But I believe that I now have a great sensitivity towards those events that happen in athletics, that is a benefit for our athletes to be able to hear and receive.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. And kind of overcoming that, right? Like being a senior, having, like you said, your best friend taken away from you, having that sport, taken away from you. Kind of talk to more of like that journey once you left JMU. You're still, an athlete, right? You're still competing at the professional level. But kind of like, what was that journey like, and kind of what was your mindset entering into the quote unquote real world?
That journey was tough. Um, that the journey was extremely difficult, but it was a necessary lesson that I needed to go through. And I call it a necessary lesson because sometimes we don't want to learn those hard lessons the hard way, but they are necessary so that we can continue to grow and continue to develop and continue to overcome and pursue something greater than the field or greater than the court, right? And some people, some athletes, they have it figured out, right? They were not necessarily figured out, but I had a buddy of mine who did not want to pursue the NFL, and I thought that he was good enough, but he said, "No, I'm not doing pro day. I'm not going to pursue it. I'm done with football." And I could not understand how you've been playing for so long and don't want to reward yourself with playing at the highest level. But I admire him because he has his own business and he's thriving now because he had vision. And I would say that, a lot of this comes down to vision, right? Are you vision? Are you visualizing? My bad, y'all.
You're good.
It comes down to vision. Are you visualizing your life playing this sport forever? And if you are, that's okay. However, that may not be realistic, right? That you can impact this game or impact that sport forever, but you might not be able to necessarily play forever. And I don't care what sport it is, right? But we certainly have the opportunity to vision and visualize beyond just the sport because it is a platform for us to now build off of. And we can build off that platform to vision work ethic, overcoming tough experiences, coachable, all of those characteristics that those real world owners and CEOs, they love those characteristics, which is why a lot of people hire former athletes. So I would say, yeah, for me personally, it was tough because I was dealing with my injury and realizing that I no longer have another guaranteed opportunity to play. At least in college, I knew that it was kind of guaranteed that, I have a chance to play and a chance to play at a high level. But when you leave, it's not guaranteed. The only thing that's guaranteed is that you will become an ex basketball player. You will become an ex football player. You will become an ex tennis player. You will become an ex athlete. That's the only thing that's guaranteed about athletics.
Absolutely, man. And as you left JMU and like you said, you've been through all of that in terms of, I guess, kind of redefining, right, who you are as a person. And you've been able to do that, of course, still competing, whether it be the CFL, whether it be the NFL, the XFL, and the different leagues that you played in. But you've also, continue to maintain who you are as a person first and foremost. And, whether it be working as a character coach or working for Young Life. But how did you kind of maintain that balance of, one, pursuing your dream, right, to play professional football at the highest level, but also understanding that you still had other things on your heart and other skills that you felt like you needed to utilize to kind of give back?
Yeah, that's an awesome question. And here's what I realized. I realized that I don't need to. I don't need to play. I don't need to pursue. I don't need to be in the NFL to be successful. I don't need this professional athletic career to buy a home, to give back to the community, to to serve. I don't need to have a platform, right? We don't need that. However, what I realized, Walt, and Sydnee, is that I absolutely love it and I want to, right? That's a difference between need and want. I don't need those things in order to survive, but I want them. And it's okay to pursue the things that you want, right? And it's okay to have vision for what you want. Now, for me, I've been let down over and over, time and time again, to the point where it's like, man, how many times am I going to let this game, get me to this point? But I've realized that there is great purpose over position, right? I realized that even when I don't have the position that I necessarily want, the pursuit gives me purpose. The pursuit gives me an opportunity to develop in an area that I was not necessarily developed in before. So, understanding that difference, and you also said it too, is redefining success. Redefining success. I thought that The only way that I can make my family happy and afford, nice things is if I receive that big contract in the NFL. And my life has proven that that is false, right? And many other people's lives have proven that that is not necessary, right? That is not needed. It's a great vision, it's a great goal, it's a great want, but you don't need those things in order to be successful. You have an opportunity to redefine yourself outside of athletics, and the other thing too is you gotta we have to truly care for our student athletes because for 4 to 5 years, they've been attached to a certain coach. They've been attached to this community. They've been attached to this athletic program where sometimes you don't even have to think for yourself. You're kind of accustomed to going to your coach to fix the problem or call the play or coach you or let you know. And that's one of the biggest hurdles that athletes have to overcome when they're done is not necessarily having that type of relationship anymore, not necessarily having that type of pat on the back or that type of feedback or that type of push that you're used to, and that is what I love about sports. But I also see the hindrance that it does. That athletes have to overcome once they get into the real world because they don't no longer have that team environment that picks you up when you're down or so that's my advice.
Gotcha. Appreciate that. Definitely. And here, the Maryland Made unit here, right, we strive to make sure our student athletes understand the importance of identity development, as well as career readiness, but also leadership education. And you mentioned the phrase purpose over position, but now that, that is also your business, right? Like, your nonprofit organization. So can you kind of break down purpose over position, a nonprofit organization, and then also kind of like just thinking and hearing those words, identity development, leadership education, career readiness, right? Like, are any of those, ideas intertwined into purpose over position?
Absolutely, everything that you just said, Walt. Your identity development, mental, emotional, spiritual. All of those things are a developmental process that everybody in life has to go through at some point, right? But for our student athletes who are leaders, who are out front, who are standing on the front lines, who are on TV, who are the heroes of our community, who's doing positive things like book drives and taking them to schools and going to read it to schools on national. Like our student athletes have such a huge platform, and purpose over position, it helps remind people that though you may or may not be in the position that you want to be in, right? There's an umbrella of purpose that's covering you no matter where you go, right? So if I take a step to the right, as long as I take that umbrella of purpose with me, that umbrella comes with me and is covering me from whatever condition may be going on in my life. It could be raining, it can be sleeting, it could be snowing. No matter what's going on, the sun can be too hot, right? But if I carry that umbrella. Now, here's the part that you have to do. You have to carry that umbrella of purpose. You actually have to equip yourself with that. Now, when you utilize it and use it, and ultimately for me, my nonprofit, injuries are so common in sports today that there's not a lot of sensitivity that goes into injuries nowadays. And when an athlete gets hurt, it's kind of like, just another injury, just another thing, just it's part of sports, it's part of the game. But I have a huge sensitivity towards it because I know what that walk is like. I know what the walk is like when you're walking off the field injured and your team has to keep playing without you. I know what it's like, when the fans, have to keep cheering without you. You're used to kind of like being the guy that they're cheering for, and now they have to move on, right? I know what it's like for your coaches to have to say next man up, next person up, got to put somebody else in the game. I know what that's like. I have visions about that. I know what it's like seeing that referee wound up the whistle and I'm not the guy out there at the quarterback position anymore, and seeing my position being taken, or seeing me not operating in that position or not being the one in that position. Well, that's where purpose over position comes in. And sometimes you might not see the fruit of your labor right then and there, but as you keep living, as you keep striving, as you keep walking towards purpose, you'll realize that your you'll realize that what you've done and the influence that you have had on the program has helped the program move forward, or has helped a player move forward, or has helped a fan or a coach move forward. And that is purposeful.
Absolutely, man. Definitely, as a former athlete, someone, played football as well and dealt with injuries throughout my career, but especially like my senior year, having that shortened. And like you said, like all of those thoughts, right? All of those doubts and just a lot of stuff came up, right? So like it's definitely important to have a community out there like Purpose Over Position that, is geared towards athletes that go through these difficult times, and make sure they know that they're not alone, right? And, like you said, that they still serve a purpose, right? Like it doesn't, you may not be, the one on the field anymore, making all the plays or getting all the, the shine, but, you still are someone that, has a place here and has, an extreme value to that organization.
Yeah, I like to, Walt, I like to think of the word asset, right? Assets are very useful, helpful,
Mhm.
you're a helpful per person, right? And asset for our nonprofit is our student. I like to think of the word asset, right? And with the nonprofit, we use that as an acronym. For the A means our student athletes love to be acknowledged. No matter what situation that they're going through, if we acknowledge them beyond the jersey, right, then we help them to have success, right, to have further success. The S stands for support. We have to support our athletes on and off the field court, track, right? We have to show up. Our student athletes love when fans show up, love when parents show up. We love when people show up for us in the midst of our pain, but also in our joyful moments as well, right? I like to think of the E stands for encourage. We have an opportunity to encourage our student athletes, right? And then the T is to transform, right? That's what we want to do in our nonprofit. We want to transform our athletes to think beyond athletics, but to think of how to use this platform for great purpose, how to operate in purpose, how to walk in purpose, how to live on purpose. So, student athletes in Maryland obviously are an asset to the community because of the work that you guys are doing, and the awesome podcasts and the book drives and the many things that you guys are doing. It shows why is important, why this work is important.
Absolutely. And, sticking with that, like Purpose Over Position, you're a nonprofit organization, but you also wrote a book, Purpose Over Position, that kind of you sharing your story, kind of with you overcoming everything. But you also have another book, right? That's My Friend as well. So, you go from being a student athlete to an athlete to an author, right? So like, what was that process like? And then, we'll talk more about the books, but like, just how did you know that I could write a book? Like, what was the moment when you like was sitting down and was like, I'm gonna write a book to express everything I've been through?
Yeah, I didn't know. I just did it, right? And I never had it in my goals when I was a child. Hey, I want to write. I want to become an author. That never made my goal list. However, it was something that was pressing on my heart so much that I knew that this was a mission field that so many athletes deal with, right? So that's why I wrote Purpose Over Position. And then when it came to That's My Friend, the inspiration behind That's My Friend, my wife and I collaborated and wrote that book together. I will tell you, it came from an experience that we had at a park, and we had this young 6-year-old girl who was a white girl, and she walked up to us and she said, "I don't understand how your whole family is black." And I was kind of appalled. I didn't know how to respond, and I think that's why we wrote the book, because I didn't know how to respond to her then. However, her question wasn't a bad question, right? It was curiosity, right? She was curious of how in the world maybe she's never seen that before. Maybe she's not in a community where you have that. Maybe, I don't know, but we wanted to write a book in response to that event, but also educate others along the way. This was an opportunity to expose those who don't have a wide variety of diversity, to expose them to some type of diversity in the schools, in their homes, right? This is really cool because this book is in homes, right? That my voice and my influence will never reach, right? This book is in schools that, my wife and I would probably never know about. This book is in the hearts of our young people, which is really, really cool and exciting. And my best friend is writing a children. He's writing 2 children's books now, and it's just an influence that we get to now educate our young people. So that was one inspiration. And 2, we wrote this book right after the George Floyd incident. We wrote this book right after the George Floyd incident. And we just wanted to do something positive to help people and to advocate for change, right? We wanted to be agents of change. And we thought that, hey, not that we gave up hope for our generation or the generation above, but we just thought, if we're going to impact, let's impact the young people, because they are the ones that's going to be there to change things. So prayerfully, that book continues to go into the hearts of world changers and leaders.
Absolutely. And making that impact is one of Sydnee's words, right? Like as a community engagement intern, like that's what she aims to do. And being able to put together events for our student athletes and our staff here at University of Maryland to take part in. But Sydnee, I'll kick it over to you. When Vad approached us with the idea to be able to partner and be able to facilitate and organize this book drive with Cool Springs Elementary School. But at the time, we just knew it was going to be somewhere in a local community. And I know this is a big reason why you're here, right, at Maryland, is to be able to put on these events for our student athletes to engage in and take part in. But what about this book drive, and what about the book That's My Friend? And like, what are you most excited about seeing this?
So you may laugh, but I'm going to say living an impact. So when this idea came about, I just knew it was going to be a great idea, because speaking with the student athletes, they always said they wanted to be involved in some way, some form in schools with elementary kids. And so this was just a great opportunity that I'm like, yeah, like it's something that we have to do. When I brought the idea to them, they're like, how do we start? Where do we go? How do we get the books? So they were already ready to get a jump start. And here we are, a few days before the event ends. And coming up here in March, we have Reading Across America Day, where not only were the student athletes able to promote the event, but they also get to read the book and show how not only representation matters to them as an individual, the sport that they play, but also the kids get to see new faces in the community at a D1 school. And then they have someone who can read a book to them. So it's like a win-win. The students get an opportunity to go out in the community and help out. And then the kids get a highlight of their day, a book that they'll be able to keep and learn more about representation through the student athletes as well. And hopefully this can be something that we can continue to do to leave that impact.
Yeah, I mean, leaving that impact is so important. And Vad, as a former student athlete, and as an athlete still, and Sydnee, I'll ask you this question as well, since you interact with the student athletes for this role. But like, what role do you feel like community engagement and community service has in overall student athlete experience?
Oh, it's huge. Community engagement for a student athlete. That's one thing that I prided myself off of when I was a college athlete. Let me tell you this. As a college athlete, as an athlete, period, when you put on that jersey, you become a superhero, all right? And you are now you have access to walk into schools without permit. I mean, it's just like you can walk in and say, hey, I want to talk to the kids, or hey, I want to read to the kids. You can do all of these cool ideas. Now, I know what it's like on the opposite side of that, retired at one point, not a college athlete, just a random dude out here, right? And if I want to go do that, no, you got to get that got to go through somebody. You got to get this signed. You got to go see secretary. You got to do all of these things. But when you're an athlete, you become a hero to your community. So definitely take advantage of that opportunity. So community engagement is huge, right? You can think of any idea that's positive, that's serving the community, and go for it, right? Because when you stamp that UMD logo and you wear that jersey, people want to hear from you, because as soon as you put that on, you automatically become a leader in the community.
Absolutely. And Sydney, like your role was constructed by student athletes, and I think we talked about this before on this podcast. But from your seat, right? Like, what role do you feel like student athletes, or community engagement has on the student athlete experience?
Well, following up with what Vad just mentioned, I feel that the student athletes are their role models. So when they do put on that jersey, they're role models. And so looking forward to this event on Reading Across America Day. Once these student athletes come in with their Maryland attire on, they're going to be like celebrities. And all, the small gestures, the kids will see these athletes just reading the books to them. But looking at it from a elementary kid, like that's going to be the highlight of the day, the month, like they're going to continue to talk about that. And so that's leaving a small impact right there. And more, when I say leave an impact, it's through any interaction, any small gesture, big gesture. And so for the student athletes, I feel like this is really important, because going to their games, they have so many people in the community who come and support them. And so being able to take time out of their days and go and give back to the community shows how much that they care about those who come and support them, and also and vice versa. And so there are a lot of individuals in the community that look up to these student athletes and see, oh, this is the sport that they play, this is what they do outside of the community. I aspire to be that one day. So I think it kind of just goes both ways with leaving an impact.
It's also a great recruiting tactic, right? There's some future.
That's what I was trying to get to.
All-stars. There's some future quarterbacks. There's some future swimmers, right? In these elementary schools. And when they see these athletes come to read to them, I want to go to UMD. I want to be an athlete like this guy because he came and read to me. I strive to be that. And that helps out the whole community. That helps out the entire world. Imagine all the college and all the athletes that are out there doing this and pouring into the community. It absolutely helps out the entire world. So
Absolutely, and I can't wait to see the pictures from this event, or hear the recap from our SAAC members, or whoever the student athletes are that are going to read to Cool Springs Elementary. Can't wait to hear the response from Cool Springs as well. So again, shout out to that. Shout out to your wife as well as your daughter for sparking this book, but also shout out to Sydnee and of course SAAC and everybody for organizing this event. And again, this will run until y'all got enough time. This episode will be released on Monday, so y'all got a week to get these books in, or to purchase a book. And again, I can't wait to see the outcome of this event. And then our last segment is Beyond. So that again, doing some great stuff right now, and I'm excited about that. But looking beyond, and like this is a tough question, I feel like, for anyone, but like, what's next for you? And I guess in all phases of your career and life in general.
What's next? That is a hard question, but I will tell you just some things that I'm working on. I'm working on another book and specifically this book will be a resource to help athletes transition well. From athletics to the real world per se. I know that that's a huge mission field there. I'm also striving to be that professional quarterback that I've always visioned for myself. I have some opportunities coming up, so we'll see what happens there. But I still have interests from NFL teams and CFL, USFL, XFL. I've played in all of them. At this point. So it's really cool to have these opportunities. As you guys see, I got the field behind me, and I love the challenge that athletics bring, and I love the challenge that sports bring. And so yeah, I would say stay tuned to what's next, and you feel free to follow me on social media. I think Vad Lee too, and also my purpose over position. .com is the website where you can learn more about purpose over position as well. So yeah, we'll see what's next, to be continued. But I know that the best is yet to come.
For sure, I love that. And speaking about my purpose over position, but what's the best way for student athletes to connect with your organization, as well as I guess supporters as well?
Yeah, I would say definitely go to the website. We have an Instagram page as well where we try to post things daily and share some motivation and encouragement. So the website is mypurposeoverposition.com. Kind of long, but definitely, as you write that in, we want you to think, hey, this is my purpose over position. What's your purpose over position story? Because all of us have one, right? And so yeah, you can definitely reach out to me on that, and also social media as well. I'm available for any athlete that's an overcomer or trying to overcome situations and events in life.
Good. And then one final question. I love this question. I call it, like the wisdom hour, but like one piece of advice that you would give Maryland student athletes.
Yeah, I would. One piece of advice that I would give, UMD athletes is to dream big and think beyond your position. Think beyond your position of an athlete. Think beyond your position of a student. Think beyond your position, right? Because that position won't always stay with you, right? And your identity cannot be wrapped up in that position alone, because I can guarantee that position is going to leave you and go to somebody else, right? So you have to think beyond that so that you can prepare yourself for success, wherever success lies in your life. So we were created to be successful, right? So you can transition into life well if you think beyond the position of where you are right now. It'll also protect you in the future and protect your position now. So hope that made sense, but definitely want to encourage you there.
Absolutely. That's a mic drop statement for sure. And Sydnee, our final question is for you. In terms of like beyond, again, we got the book drive coming to an end late in February, but for you as a community engagement intern and looking beyond, I guess, this book drive, but what's the best way for student athletes to get involved with, community engagement efforts?
Oh, they could just stop by my office here in Gossett Hall, or they could find me on the Maryland Made account. If you're not following our social media, please follow our social media at Maryland Made. And you can find me by contacting my email, sharetheshell.umd.edu.
All right. So again, that definitely appreciate your time, Sydnee. Appreciate you joining the pod again. But everyone out there, our listeners, thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Maryland Made podcast. Please be sure to download, subscribe, and share our episodes on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you listen to podcasts, so you never miss an episode. But make sure you're also following us on social media at Maryland Made, MD Made Terps on Instagram and Twitter, and connect with us on LinkedIn as well. And until next time, we're out.
Thank you, guys.